Jerusalem. This great city is sacred to three of the world's major religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The foundation of Judaism and Christianity is the Old Testament. Its stories are also important in Islam. This document has thus been hugely influential in shaping both the Middle East. Many people believe every word of the Old Testament is literally true. Even today, this conviction is fueling arguments over issues from evolution to homosexuality to abortion. The potency of these conflicts makes it important to know how much and what in the Old Testament can really be taken as literal truth. Two men are trying to shed light on these questions by investigating the archaeological evidence. What they've discovered has sparked tremendous controversy and will revolutionize our understanding of the Bible. So today we reveal the secrets of the Old Testament. In recent decades, biblical archaeology has undergone something of a revolution. A more scientific approach has informed a younger generation of archaeologists. And changing circumstances in the Middle East have allowed important new excavations, which have brought additional evidence to light. Against this background, a book called The Bible Unearthed has proposed a radical new history of the Israelites and the Bible, and powerfully challenged traditional archaeology. Its authors are Israel Fenkelstein, Professor of Archaeology at Tel Aviv University, and Neil Silberman, Director of the Ename Center of Public Archaeology in Belgium.
100 years ago, when archaeologists came to a site and would find a piece of pottery like this, they would try to fit it in somewhere in the biblical story, seeing this as a symbol of the time of Joshua or the time of Amos or another character. We work in an entirely different way. For us, the evidence is the first bit of information. We construct a story of the rise of civilization in this country. And then, in fact, we see the Bible and the biblical literature and the biblical memories as somehow symbolic of the very basic changes in society that we see here.
For the first time, we have this information not only about the main sites, but also about the countryside. The surveys in the highlands and other parts of the country have completely revolutionized what we know about ancient people in this country, and on top of that, the change of archaeology from, the old traditional way to more scientific archaeology, with all sorts of sciences supporting what we are doing and providing us with wonderful information about the daily life, about what people ate, about the environment, about how they exploited the different ecological niches and so on.
And I think that it's important to understand that the Bible, of course, is one of our most important ancient Near Eastern texts. But it's got a larger significance than that, obviously. At a time in the world where people are tending to use the Bible in a very literal sense for all kinds of rhetorical, political reasons, using the Bible as it is written, it's very important. But what we hope to do is to share the information that has been collected for the first time with the public to perhaps create a very more complex understanding of what the Bible is and what it actually says, and perhaps at least cause people to understand that there's a lot more to the biblical history than just occasional quotations used for very tactical religious, political purposes.
The Old Testament tells the story of the Jews' ancestors, the Israelites. It says their history began with a family of nomads who migrated down from Mesopotamia, modern Iraq, to Canaan, modern Israel. Their leader was a man called Abraham.
The Lord said unto Abraham, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee.
That land was Canaan, and according to the Old Testament, God promised it to Abraham and his descendants forever. This is the origin of the idea of the promised land. For the best part of a century, archaeologists have tried to prove the Abraham story by finding evidence of appropriate migrations at the times suggested by the biblical account.
All this theory from A to Z of a migration from the north is not accepted anymore today. I mean, it was a nice theory, but there's no backing. I mean, the people of the beginning of the second millennium BC, they are all from a local stock. So there was no migration from the north that you can relate Abraham to.
The general portrayal of nomadic life in the Bible doesn't really reflect very strongly what we know about nomads. Nomads are often plunderers. They often invade settled territories. There's reference to camels. The camel nomads come in much later. They are not characteristic of this period.
After arriving in Canaan, Abraham and his family supposedly settled here in the city of Hebron. This building, the tomb of the patriarchs built by King Herod 2,000 years ago in Roman times, is supposed to stand above their burial site.
What we can see here, the main building is Roman, from the Roman period, probably Herodian. You see the big stones. Above them are much later Muslim mosque. But what is most important for our aim here is the bedrock here. This is the natural bedrock from the time of the Canaanite period, from the time of the settlement period, and so on. And in this bedrock, you cannot see it here, but all around, in this bedrock, were cut tombs during the Canaanite period. This was the cemetery of the town, here around. So this is the source of the tradition, which is not historical, about the patriarch, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that they are so-called buried here.
So do we have any actual evidence that Abraham and his family did at least exist?
There is no historical Abraham in the strict sense. There are traditions about Abraham. What we read in the Bible are later traditions which have almost nothing to do with real history. Probably there was an ancestor of the tribes here named Abraham, but we know nothing about him but his name.
The patriarchs could have been real figures who became mythical during the ages. They could have been completely mythical. We don't know, and we'll probably never know. In fact, there's no way to know.
We've come to a complete archaeological dead end about Abraham. There's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that Abraham was a historical figure. But he is a prominent character in the book of Genesis. And the book of Genesis is an ancient text that is, of course, of incredible importance for us. And what we see in the figure of Abraham is a symbolic representation of the birth of the nation. Because at the time of the writing of the Bible, the history of the people of Israel was not considered to be history in the sense that we understand it, of years, of periods, of particular historical events. It was seen more as the history of a family. And of course, the father of the family, the founder of the family, is a person of great significance.
Although we can appreciate the importance of a mythical figure like Abraham, the complete absence of any objective evidence, indeed the inconsistencies in the biblical account, inevitably weakens the claims made for it.